Johnita Francis, and that is Trish.
This is our official podcast launch, and we are having no fluff conversations about life, freedom, spirituality, and crazy stuff, and aliens. Yes. So welcome, and thank you for being here. This is our launch of a Guided Life podcast, and we will be doing one every week, obviously on all the podcast channels and also live here on this page. So please subscribe. Now,
that time, same pod channel.
Same pod channel. Now, Johnita and I have got a very unique way of choosing our topics, and I don't believe anybody else is doing this.
No one's
and we're super excited. So tell everybody how we're going to be choosing our topics, Johnita.
Okay. So we thought that it would be a great idea if we actually had a wheel, and we put all of our topics on the wheel, and we spin the wheel. Yo, DJ, spin that wheel, and then we just let destiny work it out for us. So,
absolutely. And in the beginning, you wanted to play spin the bottle, but we kind of thought that might just be a little bit,
controversial. Yeah. I might get it confused with strip poker, and who knows what happens then. 1, 2, 3, Macarena, 4, tequila, hit the floor. But it will be an exciting topic. We've got 20 topics on the wheel, and it'll just be random. We'll remove them as we peg through them, so you won't get the same topic twice. And it's just something different. It's going to challenge us. We can't tell you what's happening this week or next week, so you'll just have to tune in every week to find out what we're up to.
Absolutely.
And I have no doubt that Spirit will test us.
Absolutely.
So they're messengers. They love it. They do love it.
Exactly. And I was just saying to Johnita before that I've got a little myriad of crystals here to help me tune into whatever topic comes up. I've got my merlinite, and I've got my labradorite.
Oh, very nice. So I've come along with a black quartz.
Yep.
And an amethyst.
Beautiful. We will be right then. So shall we spin this wheel? Let's find our topic for the week.
Rightio. Can you see it?
It is coming up now. There it is. Yippee.
Oh my goodness. All right, ready?
Yep.
Let's go. Look, no hands. And it'll now parallel realities and dimensions.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, Spirit, I see what you did there.
Thank you. All righty. Perfect. I love that. And that's just such a fun way to pick the topic. All right. So we're talking about parallel realities and dimensions.
You know what? I reckon I can start this. Work with me here.
Yeah.
Parallel dimensions. So kind of feels like you can be in two places at the one time, or you have something else going somewhere else, and you in this universe, in this time space. And what I noticed years and years and years ago was about deja vu, and it felt like you had actually gone in at that exact place at that exact time, and I was absolutely fascinated by deja vu. And I thought, okay, what is this? What does it mean? And I kind of figured, and I thought about this for a long time, that you and your other personality or your other part of you in a parallel dimension are actually experiencing the same emotional frequency at the same time. Therefore, it feels like you've actually done this before because you're going through the same thing.
I love that. That makes sense.
It kind of does, doesn't it? Because you know that you haven't been there before, because you might have just landed in Scotland and you've never been to Scotland before, but you go, crap, I think I've been in this store before. I think I've been in this section of the castle before. And it's a really funny, and when we get deja vu, it's a gut feeling. It's not a mind feeling, it's a gut feeling, and gut's hold all of our emotions. So I'm figuring that it had something to do with that. What do you reckon?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe in the parallel realities as well. I think there's hundreds of them going on all the time. So our essence, our energy, our soul is living different lives in different realities. And firstly, we can draw on all that information. But yeah, that's a great uh, insight, really, that you had with this drawing on that same emotion that.
Yeah.
Like you have actually been there, but it's the emotion side of it, not the physical side of it. Yeah,
And I
I
think
like that.
and it kind of made more sense to me as I delved into a bit deeper, because when we have experiences that leave us, like, okay, childbirth, classic example, sorry if there's any boys watching, but you remember the pain, but you don't remember the physical pain. And
Yep.
you remember the experience, but you don't remember the physical experience so much. That sort of dies away, but you remember the emotion around it. And it kind of, and you know that it's a gut feeling when, unless someone's a total pain in the ass, it's not a head feeling, it's a gut feeling. And deja vu was like, why are we experiencing this? What does this mean? And the only thing that I could come up with was that. But just to throw a little spinner in the works, I have actually not had deja vu once since I met my husband, who is my twin flame.
Isn't that interesting? What are your thoughts on that? Why do you think that is?
I was wondering because Terry
Yeah.
and I have had very similar lives, very similar, not
Mm,
like our childhoods, but we did have traumatic childhoods in different ways.
mm,
The experiences and our personality were almost peas in a pod. We're very identical in so many different ways. And I'm
yeah.
wondering if he was experiencing an emotional turmoil or an emotional charge at the same time that I was, and it made me feel, or made him feel, like he'd been there physically before. So the fact that I actually haven't had any deja vu since we've met at all, not even once, is really quite bizarre.
It is. And here's another theory.
Oh, get at this.
So I believe that in other dimensions, which is different to parallel realities, and the other dimensional versions of us are looking out for us. So did a higher version of you and a higher version of Terry create these moments of emotion to actually guide you ultimately together?
Oh, I like that. I wonder if my other dimensional personality is taller and thinner and has bigger boobs. Because her and I need to have a chat, because she could have a little bit more height and a little bit more boob. A little that, but I like that theory. That's great.
Yeah.
What
So
I like about this topic is that there's no right or wrong way of looking at it. It's just more variables on, wow, I didn't think about that before. That makes sense. Or, yeah, I kind of see how that fits in with what I already thought. Have you thought about it this way? I love that. The best conversations are the educational ones.
they are, and just what comes spontaneously, which is why we chose to choose topics this way, because when you think about it for too much, you start to overthink things. And this way, we're just like, oh, I got something. Oh, I got something. Oh,
Yeah.
I got something. And it's just that channel kind of stuff that that comes out. The other thing that just popped into my head was, the kids, they tend to highlight the kids that remember past lives.
Yeah.
A lot of those memories are kind of deja vu, but they're emotional memories too, aren't they? They're like, I remember that bridge and remember, falling off it and drowning. And it is the emotional thing of it. So is that actually a parallel reality experience, or is that something even more different?
Even freakier.
Right?
I remember watching something because, if it's crazy, I will watch it because it's just fascinating. And I remember watching about a little, and I'm going to use colors here only so you get a better story. But a little white kid was born, and he was talking to his parents about his black friend, and he said, I've got to go and see him. I've got to go and see him. Well, what the white family, who didn't really interact with the coloured people, didn't realise that was his friend was actually in his 80s, and he had stayed in his childhood home. And when his parents passed away, he just stayed in the same house. So this little boy that was born now, like, 5 or 6 years of age, took his parents over to this black friend's house to be greeted by an 80-year-old man. And the 80-year-old man recognised this little boy as his old friend that had passed away years ago. It was absolutely, I tears, because
Wow.
I totally understand that we get recycled as souls. I mean, how else are we going to learn? Some of us have to do a lot more than others.
Yeah. Well, that's not parallel reality stuff, though, is it? That's reincarnation.
Reincarnation in a big time. It's like, well, how does this little boy know so much about this? And I'm like, because he got recycled. And I'm yelling at the TV, he got recycled. But there's so much stuff that we just can't even. We use 10% of our brains, Trish, and just use less. But
yeah, absolutely. But also 10% of our potential, not just our brain, because it's not all about intellect. It's the 10% of our potential.
Exactly. And it's just like there's so much going on that we might never, ever even touch on to even know that it exists, to be able to comprehend it or research it or understand it. And it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
It is fascinating. I'm starting to really trust what comes, and I think that's one of the big messages behind our podcasts. It's just going to be to trust what comes, because if you get too intellectual about it and you try to figure everything out and try to prove everything, and how can you? So, like, for instance, many of you have seen my spirit guide drawing. Now, I've since learned that that's actually me in the 10th dimension. Can I prove it? No. Do I believe it? Yes, because I feel it and I trust it. So sometimes you just need to really trust what comes up. And as I just said, and as I say to clients, it's that crazy thought, the one that comes up and you think, that's crazy, I can't believe that. Believe that one.
That's the one I'll grab and run with. Mostly it's shock value.
That's it. So I first started working with the parallel realities not so long ago, actually, probably only a year or so, really recognizing the power of tuning into that for different reasons. And I just find it fascinating. And so as soon as you open up that can of worms and you start being interested in something, the universe just throws more and it gets wider and wider. And I'm just learning more every day. There was something I heard the other day on Gaia. Someone was talking and said there's, over 100 realities of Earth.
Wow.
All going at the same time, and depending on our vibration is which one we're on.
Oh, I like that idea.
And it kind of made sense. And when I think about, there are people who say that there's some things happening, or did you see this, or did you hear this? I'm like, no, I'm totally oblivious to a lot of things that are going on. And I just think because they're not on my vibration, so I don't see them. So for me, it's kind of like it's a different Earth reality. And we're all rising in vibration now, so everything's starting to look differently. So it's a different version of Earth, but the same Earth.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain, isn't it? It's a different vibrational Earth.
Yeah, because as you, if you use that analogy about, the one I use where you climb up the stairs and you have a look, and it's your spiritual awareness level, and you might like that level, and there's nothing wrong with you staying there forever and a day. But if you want to go look around, there might be some more staircases, and you climb up that. Each time you level up or become more aware of what's going on around you, and you shift in your frequency, your perception changes, because you can see things differently. You can see things more broadly or widely, or just have a different way of looking at things. It could have gone pear-shaped if I was so arrogant in my belief patterns that I didn't want to listen to anything that you may have thought about all of this topic. And, we would never shift as human beings. So the leveling up that we do is that spiritual awareness and being able to go, you know what, it doesn't mean that you're right or you're wrong, or that none of that comes into it. It really is what you can do with that information now and how that feels. And it might shift, you know, in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, I might go, wow, that was totally stupid to think that. It's so easy. Why? What path was I on? But that's what
it might happen tomorrow.
probably more than likely now that I've said it out loud. But that is the gift of being able to have all these different ideas and learn so much about them. And I think it was your the program I did with you about the success, and I chose the successful Johnita. And when I thought about that from a different dimension, a different parallel reality, the fear around success that I had before about being successful or being too much in the limelight, who would want to listen to me after all? And I had all these sabotage thought patterns come in, and Trish goes, but you've got a different reality, so just wake up and live in that reality. I'm like, you're a mad woman. And woman, you shifted in a nanosecond overnight, like literally. It was an amazing thing because I wasn't too caught in my own bullshit and my own story and the stories that I tell myself to stay in that bullshit so I can't grow and I can't move forward. I was prepared to listen to what Trish said, even if I thought she was mad. And you know what? She was mad. And now I'm mad and we're mad together and we have this mad podcast.
But you're successful. But you're successful while you're being mad. So you know.
Definitely mad. It's been great. But it wasn't until someone said to me, and it happened to be Trish, there's this other reality. And I thought about this and I'm like, no, I have not. And I thought, why have you been keeping this from me? It's an amazing, amazing moment. It was instant for me, absolutely instant. So, yeah.
It was amazing for me too when it came, because after years and years of personal development and everything else, my reality wasn't changing. And it's so frustrating for any of you out there doing the work and you're doing the courses, and you know, not everybody does the work. A small percentage of people do personal development, and then when your reality doesn't change, like I just had the flat forehead, like banging my head against the wall. But you know, that was told to me one night by spirits, well, just go to another reality and tune into whoever you need to be. How simple is that?
Again, you've been withholding information.
Could have told them 5 years ago. And but you know, I think the joy of that as well is that you can really see as things shift in your reality, and as things shift in your current reality in the external, anything you wish to change can be done really in an instant. That's the exciting thing.
Yeah, I think you've got to be. You don't have to understand the theory behind it, but you do need to have an open enough mind to think that you might be in the current shit that you're in because you're doing the same things you've always done and you're expecting a different outcome. So if
Absolutely.
you want to try something different, you have to think about things differently. You have to actually physically, mentally, emotionally, and sometimes financially invest in a different option, a different alternative thing to be able to do this. And it was eye-opening. I absolutely loved it. I'm like, oh my God, that was so easy. And now I know why, because Trish spent 5 years studying it to make it easy.
And here's something else you might be interested in. I was listening to a channel probably a year or so ago, a Dutch lady, and she brings in all the big stars, and she brought in Michael Jackson. And he said lots of things, but one of the things that he said, because she asked him about reincarnation, and this is how really I got the awareness of the different realities. He said, you know, it's not so much reincarnation. He said, I'm actually living thousands of different lives right now. My soul is living all of these lives right now. So it's not really reincarnation. I am in different realities.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I just thought that was really, really interesting. And whether you believe it was Michael Jackson or whatever, it doesn't really matter. The concept was put in my head.
The concept.
And I thought, wow. So that story of the young boy, that is kind of like reincarnation because it's coming back to the same reality.
Yeah.
But there's also, you know, when we pass away and well, not even that. Right now, we are an energy, we are a soul, we are an essence that is conscious in different realities. And I just feel that's so exciting because you can just tune into whatever you need to know. It's there. The knowledge is there. You just need to ask your own energy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting concept that I mean, you know, Michael Jackson aside, I'm like you. That's just like, whoa. Why haven't I thought of this before? I need to. It's like, okay, podcast done. I need to research. I'll see you in 3 days. But it's an interesting concept because when people come through, now this is where it gets bizarre. When I do past life stuff, or I'm having a look at a past life for somebody, you know, if you come to me for a reading and go, like, I can't work out why I feel insecure all the time. I go, that's because blah, 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 and it's your past life or a couple of lives ago and you brought it through with you.
Okay.
When I look at that past life, you're not physically you.
No.
Your soul is you because
Yes.
I tune into your energy. That's how I'm able to find you because you got like a big thumbprint. Your thumbprint doesn't change, and that's what your soul print is like. But then when I call for grandma or grandpa into this reality, or into, you know, we want to have a talk to grandma or grandpa or somebody that passed over, I actually they will come through and present themselves however they want to present themselves, but I'm able to identify them from this lifetime.
Yeah.
So there's a level of awareness of what body they chose to be in at what time. So it's really there's a bizarre, there's a little bit there, and I need to think about how that's going to come together.
And of course, time doesn't exist either.
No, it doesn't.
We're all. That's why the parallel reality. So
Time doesn't exist when I'm late.
there's no, and you're very right when you're late. But yeah, time doesn't exist either. So is it our past or is it our future? But it's still tuning into that energy, and tuning into the energy, I think also you're tuning into a specific energy of that person of another life that will help them right now in this reality.
Yeah. So now I'm thinking, is it that actual person's recycling, or is it an imprint on the soul and they're having a different existence, and I'm tuning into that existence?
Well, I think it could be either. I think anything that's not I think anything that's what am I trying to say here? My mouth's going and my head's going the different direction. I was going to say anyone in the same lifetime would be recycled, but that's not always the case either.
No, I don't think so.
Because there's enough time to come back as yourself into a different reality. Yeah.
And I think each time you come to a certain, I mean, when we're born, we're assigned our natal chart in astrology. And we're assigned that based on their lessons, our weaknesses, our strengths, what we're here to learn, what we're here to let go of, and what we're here to strive for to be able to get to the next part of our lives. I think that we only go through 12 recycles because there's 12 zodiacs and there's 360 degrees.
Wow.
So I think we're only here for 12 recycles, and then I don't know. I don't think we get discarded. I think we either ascend or we go somewhere else.
Okay.
And I just got spirit confirming that. Thanks, guys. Even though right, don't start with me with the channeling. Thank you.
And so, but what does spirit say about the thousands of lives that we could be living at the same time in parallel universes? Because that could also be true, as well as the reincarnating. They could be two different things.
Well, I can hand on heart tell you right now that when I channel or when I go and talk to other entities, as in not necessarily human form entities, I am in an astral travel form. I'm in my soul form.
Yes.
So the fact that I can go wherever I want in that form says to me that there's something more going on than what we're ever aware of.
Absolutely, because the parallel realities are also a different thing to the dimensions.
Yep.
Dimensions are different vibrational forms, and as everybody knows, this is like a 3D reality that we're all rising up from. But what are the dimensions? So there's like the first dimension, which is consciousness, or where it started, I guess, wanted to experience itself, so needed to be second dimension, but no one was observing it, so it needed to be third dimension. So there's the two contrasts and an observer, right? And then the fourth dimension, where we're really getting the different concept of things aren't just what we see. And then the fifth dimension, which is the dimension above all of that, seeing it all as an experience, not good or bad, not positive or negative. It just is. So, that's an experience. And then rising up in all those levels. And I feel that's different, because that's different. The beings in the 9th, 10th, 11th dimensions they're not humans like us.
They don't watch the Kardashians. They don't scream at the TV about stuff. They're not even. They've got a very clear understanding of what is and what is not. And
in the really high dimensions, they don't even have mass. They're just an energy form. So that's a different. And you go there. Like, you travel there as well, to the dimensions.
Yeah. It's very interesting, because you see different things that you wouldn't normally see. And it's not. And I know that might sound scary for some people, but it's not scary there. It's not anything to be in fear of, or it's nothing terrifying, or all the Hollywood stuff that you get around the darkness and the blackness and the pits and purgatory and all that crap. It doesn't exist. So it's different. It just is. You nailed it before. It just is. And a lot of what you and I do and what we've been through, we're already living in that 5th dimension stuff, because it just is. When I talk about the shame and embarrassment of the things that happen, I don't have any of that, because I've let it go, because it just is. It's not mine. It's just see you later. I'm rising above that. And it's a very different way of living, completely very liberating, very free way of living. So,
It is. And that's not to say we don't get dragged back down into human third dimension, like me this morning sometimes. But, you find the way out a lot quicker.
You know the road. It's like, that's right.
You know the road, you find the way out a lot quicker.
Anymore. Get me out of here, Scotty. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, with the different realities, though, I just kind of feel right now on Earth that, let's just talk about that for a minute. There really is two different humans here at the moment. There's really the ones stuck in, and there's no right or wrong here and no judgment. It just is. There's the humans that are still in fear and really very dense and very only believe what they see kind of expression. And then there's the ones who are beginning to open up a little bit to the high vibration, and it just seems to be getting wider apart. Have you noticed that it's just more obvious now? Like, we used to all blend in with the community. Now I just feel like there's a real line in the sand sometimes with.
I agree. And I think it's the divide is because, and it's actually flipped, because years ago, us crazy people were called or branded conspiracy theorists. And we were a minority because, we were the wackos that tested things and researched and talked about these weirdo, voodoo, hoodoo topics. And now all those weirdo, voodoo, hoodoo topics are actually more common. And the minority is now the people that are living in that fear, because a bulk of people are going, well, hang on a minute, that doesn't feel right to me, and it's creating a question. So it's kind of flipped, like the smokers and the non-smokers. So it doesn't flip. And it's really interesting to watch that because I actually am having some beautiful conversations with people that I would never have thought in a million years would be going, oh, I read something about that. Or I was on the internet one night, watched this YouTube video, and all of a sudden I was down at this wacky side of things, and I thought of you, and I'm like, I love it when people compliment me. And it's about chucking out there and just raising awareness that, just because someone said there's a black camel in your lounge room does not mean that there's a black camel. It could be an alpaca, it could be a Great Dane, it could be Marmaduke dropped in for a visit. You have to question. And I think people forget that they have the empowerment and the right and the decency and the courtesy and respect for themselves to actually go and research stuff and learn about things. And the more you understand something, it's like starting a new job. We're shit in our pants day one. But the more confident we get doing our job, the less that fear's there. We don't shit our pants anymore. We're, holding our head high because we've nailed something that we enjoy doing. And research and understanding spirituality and dimensions and parallel living and realities and all that wonderful stuff that we've been talking about tonight. It's up to you to empower yourself. And if it's still shit at the end of your research, chuck it. Not for you. That's okay. Still come along to our podcast because it might be something different.
It is. It's all about choices, isn't it, really? Yeah. And, some of that voodoo witchy stuff that is very mainstream and accepted now is even simple stuff like using herbs and plants as medicine. Yeah. Like witches, people used to get burnt at the stake for eating herbs, right? Yeah. So some very basic things, but look, this show is all about empowerment and us talking about these different topics. It just really gives you permission to do the same. And I know it's really tricky sometimes believing one thing and everybody else in your household or your family or your workplace believing something else. And it's difficult, and it's easier to stay just letting everybody else guide what you believe. But it feels uncomfortable for so many of you now. You feel out of alignment believing what someone else is telling you to believe. So that's the rise in energy. That's the rise in, hey, it's time for you to live your life here, choosing what you believe, choosing how you live.
Yep. Yeah. I can chuck it out, try something new. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
What a cool topic to start with. There was a doozy. When I saw it on the screen, I'm like, shit, really?
Let's pull the big guns out. And your bird seems to enjoy it too, so that was good.
And I was actually saying to Trish before we came on, I was going to stick an extra topic on there saying, are we wearing pants? And we could have a whole podcast on guessing who was wearing pants or not. And the restrictive blood flow to your brain when your pants are too tight, or perhaps that you need to bathroom more often. A whole bunch of 30 minutes is a great amount of time for me to talk about no pants.
The trouble is we'd have to kind of, prove it at the end whether we wear it or not. So it could be a bit disturbing for the people actually watching.
Ratings might go up. Maybe not in winter.
That's it.
Be aware when summer comes.
Well, that's been fun tonight. What an exciting first podcast for us, and so many people here on our live broadcast on Facebook. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we will be. You'll be able to subscribe to our podcast channels. We'll be on Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Alexa, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, Deezer, and Listen Notes. But, on whichever podcast app you've got, you'll be able to find us. Just a guided life with Johnita Francis and Trish Rock. And please subscribe because while it's heaps of fun to watch us, you'll also be able to listen back to these, whenever you like, when you're driving or, you're just lying in bed at night and want to explore some multi-dimensional conversation.
Have a laugh. Let's listen to the two crazy ladies. See what else. It's fun, hasn't it?
It has been lots of fun. Should we tell people what our first idea was for our logo before we go? It was my idea, actually. I wanted a bit of Charlie's Angels kind of thing mixed up with the two Ronnies. I'm with her. Yeah, but it just didn't work.
Then we realised it was just we needed something way more weird than that, just to really our personalities. Yeah. But it's been a lot of fun, and look, we've got 20 topics picked out already. We'll be adding to the repertoire. We will do viewers' choice as well. So if you'd love to hear a topic, it will go on the board though, so it will be random when it gets picked. But we'd love to have some ideas on what you'd like to hear us have a chat about, and our thoughts and our experiences. And I have had a spirit person standing behind me for quite some time, but I can hear them huffing at me. So at some point they're going to want to have a say.
Yeah.
But it's been a lot of fun. I always love working with you, Trish.
Oh, thank you. You too. I think we bounce off each other quite well, and it's been so much fun. You see my smile lines getting bigger and bigger here.
I said that to my husband the other day. See these wrinkles? You're a mug. Stop making me happy every day. Stop making me laugh. And he's like, okay. And then I was frowning, and he says, I'll make you frown instead. I'm like, stop it. Just stop it. And I was trying to keep my face like concrete. So, yeah.
So exciting. So I love the whole wheel concept and picking out subjects and people contributing. I think we also will be having a Q&A podcast every now and again to just answer questions live. So that'll be fun too. So thank you, everybody, and please tune in next week. Every Wednesday at 6:30 we'll be live on the Facebook page, and then obviously the podcast will be up after that. And if you are listening on a podcast, please subscribe, and you'll be notified of all the podcasts that we do, and there'll be more.
Yay! And with that, we will wish you a good night, Earthling.
Yes.
I need to do that thing that Spock does. There we go. Woo-hoo! She done it. Listening to the podcast, I have just performed this Spock beautifully. I didn't have to do it at the end.
You didn't even think about it. It just happened. Perfect.
I think I might be living a reality somewhere else, in a planet far, far away.
You might have tuned into Spock.
Ooh, my ears. Oh, no. Okay. All right, carry on.
All right, awesome. Thank you, and we'll look forward to seeing you on our next podcast.
We will indeed. Bye, everyone. See you later.